Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to There Is No Meaning to the Existence. Shiva, Space, Time, Universe, Alien, Sadhguru, Adiyogi. There is no meaning to the existence. I'm gonna translate, I'm gonna understand it as there's no meaning to existence. Not to the existence, but there's no meaning to existence. To exist, there's no meaning behind it. I will disagree because this is what I think of it. The meaning of existence is to exist. That is it, really. So when you look at animal species, um, the reason why they're still here today is because the meaning of these species is to survive, and that's the reason why we're here today. We fight to live, fight to reproduce, and yeah, pretty much it. Meaning of existence is to reproduce. But I'm curious as to hear, how is there meaning? Now in a sense, I get it. If you look at the the overall, besides the baser instincts of survival, outside of that, there is no meaning to existence in a sense. You create your own meaning. But let's hear what he has to say here.
So this body, if we keep it in a certain way, if we do not contaminate it with too many ideas, philosophies, identities, if you keep it in a certain level of openness, this will become an access point to what we are referring to as consciousness or the basis of the life that we are, in a way. So somebody can call it consciousness, somebody can call it a being, somebody says this is God. Well, we can use as much vocabulary as you want. Essentially, we are trying to put a meaning on something which cannot be defined, which has no meaning. Meaning is a consequence of human psychological process. Psychological process is a consequence of accumulated memory. So you cannot slap one meaning from your mind upon a limitless possibility which is the very basis of our existence.
It's, I think, important that we have the experience and the memory, as Sadhguru said, to really get to an understanding. Or imagine I would be a scientist looking at color vision, but me myself would only see in black and white. So even the most perfect understanding of color from a theoretical perspective in this colorblind scientist, wouldn't it be different the day I would truly see in color? So that's the kind of frustration I have when talking with big experts who have, I don't know how many 10,000s of hours of meditation, and I know you're a very expert meditation yourself, and I'm just this little athlete, right? Trying to understand what you mean when you're talking about all these different states and nuances. And so, you're right, I see consciousness not even less black or white or on this gray scale, but rather all the colors of the rainbow. And it's so multidimensional that it's very difficult for us to collapse it, to reduce it, and to grasp the holiness of the experience.
If I can say something.
Hold on, Sadhguru. Oh, that's interesting. It's interesting. I've never seen this interview. I am now curious as to see what this interview is all about. It's interesting. I mean, he's talking about, like, to grasp something so big and magnificent and so spectacular, to reduce it to a word. Me personally, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's a mere to understand even just a simple part of it is good enough, so that we have something to understand it with. If we cannot express it or cannot understand it, there's no way to grasp it. But you know, I'm open to that, to see what they mean by it's ungraspable or ununderstandable, which would be kind of weird. And if we cannot understand it nor grasp it, it's out of our league in a sense, I believe. Clearly, people can grasp Brahman, Atman, the one true one consciousness, Brahman. So it is not necessarily something that's out of our league. It is just out of the league in terms of people who are not prepared, who's not trained in such a sense. Kind of like, you know, any athlete. Not everyone can become an athlete. not everyone can be enlightened. I mean, everyone can be enlightened, but it's not like right now you can be enlightened. It takes time. There's process. There's steps to get to that point. So clearly, pure consciousness is something that we can grasp. Is something that we can define, but not in the sense that we can, using one or two words, can define the entirety of it, but as a concept so that we have something to focus on. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that we need to be able to understand and grasp it so that we can understand and grasp it, and that we have something to work towards. If it's something so incomprehensible, we cannot grasp it, we cannot work towards it because we don't know how to, because we don't understand it. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. And let me know if I'm wrong in the comments below.
Can I?
Sure, sir, please.
See, Stephen, as we sit here, this is my body, that is your body, distinctly established. Right now, it is 100% like this. I don't know what you're drinking, I can't see, but whatever you're drinking, what's in the cup is not you. The moment you drink it, after some time it becomes you. This is happening right now. So, though what you think is your body and what I think is my body is just a piece of this planet, right now it is distinctly clear, this is my body, that is your body, 100%. This is my mind and that is your mind, these are my emotions and those are your emotions, these are my experiences, those are your experiences. But there is no such thing as my consciousness and your consciousness. This is a living consciousness. We blew our own bubble. I'm sure you have that little wonderful boy who came on the screen, I'm sure he's blowing soap bubbles at you sometime. So, if you blow a soap bubble, this is my bubble, that's your bubble. Poop, it went. Then there is no such thing as my bubble and your bubble, there is no such thing as my air and your air. Consciousness is just like this. Right now you have blown your bubble, I have blown my bubble. This is me, that is you. But when this goes poop, there is no such thing as my consciousness and your consciousness. It is just that we are holding a certain amount of, if you want to call it as consciousness, I would prefer to call it as life, because the word consciousness, as you are speaking, I'm seeing that even last time when we spoke to all Bala's friends, what I see is wakefulness and consciousness, there is no clear distinction in medical terminology. See, everything that you do with your anesthesia has nothing to do with consciousness. It has something to do with body and various functions of the body. You're shutting down certain aspects of the bodily functions. One of them is transmission of pain, which is the main interest when somebody is going to surgery. You don't want to stop their heart, you don't want to stop their brain, you would like to see the transmission of pain stops. Whatever is being cut, whatever damage or fixing is happening, whatever parts of the body may be being removed, what is not vital may be being pulled out, all that is happening. Only transmission of pain is not happening. This has got nothing to do with losing consciousness and gaining consciousness, there's no such thing. So we're using the word wakefulness and consciousness in a little different way, and not only that, especially not just in medical terminology, generally in English language, there is no distinction between somebody is unconscious and he became conscious and consciousness as a larger possibility. So, my body, my intelligence, my mind, my memory, your memory, my experiences, your experience, all different. But there is no such thing as my consciousness and your consciousness. It is just that it is only the human creature on this planet who has the neurological capability and sophistication of mechanism that if they allow it, they can access this dimension of consciousness. No other creature is really capable of accessing it. This doesn't mean there is no consciousness in them. Without that, the life process wouldn't happen. There is consciousness even where there is no body, all right? Only thing is, you need a certain sophisticated instrument to access that, which is the human mechanism.
Real quick, that's what's probably going to get him. I wish I could see the doctor's face as Sadhguru's talking about this, because I want to see his body language. And whenever he said that there's consciousness even if there's no body, I want to see if he would react to that, to see if he kind of makes a face, as in like, what? Kind of like I would. I mean, I'm sure I have, actually, if you watch my other videos where he talks about this, especially when I'm first introduced to this. I still... I'm still trying to figure out this consciousness thing, and you don't have to write a comment about explaining what consciousness. I do understand Advaita Vedanta in general terms as best as I could at everything. There's I know there's a person that watched the video says everything is consciousness. There is only Brahman, and everything appears in Brahman. But to me, that sounds like there's Brahman, and then there's this thing that appears in Brahman that's not Brahman, because it appears in it, but it's not it. So, but obviously, I think everything is consciousness, as far as I know, with Swami Sarvapriyananda, and so far Sadhguru and Swami Tadatmananda has explained it that way. Again, watch their videos to get exactly what they mean. Don't take my word for it. So, I was just curious how did I guess he's an anesthesiologist, curious as to how his face reacted to that word. He's like, everything is consciousness. This rock?
This is why we consider being human is a great privilege, because you have access to dimensions beyond your physical boundaries.
Sorry. He used the key word there that I had trouble earlier, is dimensions. The way he uses dimensions is not how I guess a Westerner would use it, but dimensions as in how you interpret different things. Your dimensions of smell, your dimensions of eyesight, your dimensions of hearing, is basically, if I remember correctly and if I understood him, it's different interpretations of things. And that dimension word is so vast that it could be dimensions of intellect, dimensions of wisdom, which has nothing to do with your eyes and stuff. It's both the physical and the non-physical that dimensions can be used with Sadhguru.
That is the fundamental significance of being human. So, let us not misunderstand the instrument and what we see. If you take a telescope and see, you saw another galaxy, but the galaxy is not produced by the telescope. The galaxy is there. The telescope only gave you an access. Similarly, your body, your brain, whatever, I don't want to identify different things, from your hair to your toes, everything is body as far as I'm concerned, including your brain. It is just another dimension of the body. So this body, if we keep it in a certain way, if we do not contaminate it with too many ideas, philosophies, identities, if you keep it in a certain level of openness, this will become an access point to what we are referring to as consciousness, or the basis of the life that we are, in a way. So somebody can call it consciousness, somebody can call it a being, somebody says this is God. Well, we can use as much vocabulary as you want. Essentially, we are trying to put a meaning on something which cannot be defined, which has no meaning. Meaning is a consequence of human psychological process.
Real quick, and I get what he's trying to say there. Well, not completely, but I understand what he means by us trying to find meaning in things. It makes things easier to, like I said earlier, it makes things easier to understand. If there's no meaning behind certain things, then there's either no point to understand it, or there's no point to understand it, for one, or there's no way of understanding it because there's no meaning behind it. Either there is something but has no definition or meaning behind it, then there's no point on understanding it. Or if there is something out there but we cannot find meaning for it, we don't know how to define it, then we cannot grasp it. In my opinion. Let me know if I'm wrong.
Psychological process is a consequence of accumulated memory. So you cannot slap one meaning from your mind upon a limitless possibility which is the very basis of our existence. So this is what is the fundamental mistake, that we are trying to take a piece of our psychological process and trying to understand what is consciousness. Consciousness is not something that you can understand. Understand means there must be a meaning. There is no meaning to it. There is no meaning to the existence. It's just a tremendous phenomenon. But you can experience it. You have the necessary instruments to experience it, not the instruments in your lab. You as a person, you have the necessary instrument to experience this. Will you allow it or not, is the only question. As I said in the beginning, it all depends on how you're identified. If your identifications are limited, you have lost the ability to experience it. If your identity is, not identified with anything, you kept yourself loose like that, then there is a possibility of experiencing it. A whole lot of people under drug-induced conditions, they are claiming they experience many things. I'm not questioning that at all, it's very much possible, because one thing that I have seen happening to people under the influence of alcohol or drug is, they've lost their sense of identity. What they think they are usually is not there in them, they've become little boundaryless. Because of that, they might have accessed a certain dimension, but will that make them competent to access it whenever they want? No, 100% not. In fact, they may lose their faculties because they forced it upon, chemically forced something to happen, so that may not… that may damage the instrument for good, and you may not be able to experience anything beyond a certain point.
Swami Taramadanda has said the same thing too whenever he was a younger person. I remember him talking about that. But oh man, I wish I could hear what he has to say and see how he understood it, because I want to hear his perspective and how he understood Sadhguru. And it'll probably help me also potentially understood Sadhguru even more, or maybe he's like, well, no, he didn't quite understand Sadhguru, you know, because I'm always curious about that, like how people understand things. Different interpretations of the same thing. That's the reason why, again, I watch many gurus and swamis, is because sometimes, even though they say the same thing, or like they all say, you know, talk about Brahman, it's just the sheer fact of how they explain it's a little bit different, and sometimes I understand different ones better, or sometimes all of them pieced together completes the puzzle for me. And but yeah, definitely well, obviously I want to watch all of Sadhguru's videos, but I have to keep my my viewing spread across all of them, and as many people as possible, because I don't know if Sadhguru talk about everything. Maybe sometimes I might have issues understanding Sadhguru, which I did in the very beginning, and I'm mostly figured out what he means when he says stuff. Again, I'm curious if that scientist guy understood dimensions and stuff, because whenever Sadhguru talk about dimensions, I was thinking of like Marvel Cinematic Universe, different dimensions and levels of existence and stuff, which Sadhguru does mean it that way in certain contexts, but also means it a different way. It took me a long time to understand what he means by dimensions, and even now, I have a better grasp of it, let's just say that. Anyway, it's my reaction. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.